All right, here we go. Red Panda, fresh off finishing the AT yesterday through a frost storm. It was crazy being up there, but I'm so glad that I got up there with you. And today we are going to interview you and see what your thoughts are now that you can look back on the trail. So, the first thing I wanted to say to you was, how did you hear about the AT?
My grandma reads a lot of books about other hikers and their experiences, um, and she talks about what books she's reading and stuff, and that kind of like introduced me to it and kind of gave me the idea. I thought that'd be kind of cool to look into. Just thought it was a cool thing. Like people hiking 2,200 miles through the wilderness. It was kind of appealing. It was definitely I wasn't really looking for the challenge, but it was interesting.
So what would you say was the thing that attracted you to it? You've just said you'd seen about people, it being a cool idea. What was it particularly?
It was a mixture of things. One, when I left, I was just in a really bad place mentally. I needed to get away. And two, it kind of goes back to one time me and an ex-girlfriend were on a section. It's the Elk Park section. And I remember we were hiking it together. And I was like, man, it'd be so cool if, one day we tried to do the AT. And I'll never forget, she stopped hiking, turned around. She's like, I'm sorry, but you could never do that. And now I'm like, I can't do what?
So, what were people's reactions when you said, hey, I'm going to do this?
So when I went into the gear shop to buy my backpack, I got a Gregory Balto 65. Shout out Gregory. I told her, the lady's like, oh, so you going for a couple of day trip, or what are you looking to do? So we know what size. And I was like, well, I'm gonna hike the AT, and she looked at me. She was like, oh, okay, yeah, like get out of here, whatever. And I want to say my family wanted to be supportive, but they didn't believe I was going to do it. And one night I was standing in my living room, and I had an Appalachian Trail map. It was the National Geographic. I don't know how big it was, but it was on my wall, and I was standing there looking at it. My brother was sitting on the couch. I was just studying it, and he just starts kind of like laughing to himself a little bit. And I look over, and he's like, dude, there's just no way. Look how long that is. There's just no way. And, and at the time I believed that. I was like, yeah, like there's no way I'm making it to Maine. And I was like, I'd be lucky to make it to Damascus. Really lucky. And, well, I can't say that I wasn't. I'm very blessed to have done this.
When did you kind of decide this is something you wanted to do?
So it was me and my ex-girlfriend. We had split up, went our separate ways, and I was lost. I was depressed, and I wasn't satisfied with my life and how it was going. And I was like, I need to do something that's gonna make me feel alive. Something that scares me a little bit, and come out here with a few intentions, but it was that, like, I've got to do something. I've got to get out of here. And so it was about I signed up online for the AT, and it was like register online, and it was like June of 21 or something, June or July of 21.
And what hiking experience did you have before you came out here?
This was my very first backpacking trip. I was a day hiker.
That's incredible.
The biggest hike I had done before this was 10 miles.
So that kind of explains why you chose to do it in 2022, was just where you were in life at that point. It wasn't like you said, I'm going to do the AT, now let me choose a year to plan it. It was more like, I want to do something this year.
Yeah, it's like I need to do something. Like I'm just spinning my wheels in real life.
What research did you go through?
I read a bunch of the books that my grandma had read, just to get other people's experiences and kind of like an idea of what to expect. And then I was on the ATC website reading everything like Leave No Trace and what I could expect as far as fees and stuff, which needs to be updated because it seems like there's a lot more fees on the trail than what was told to me on the ATC website. And I did some gear research, like not a whole lot of gear research, but like what would I need if I went out there? And you get a whole lot of unnecessary information or information that isn't correct for through hiking. Maybe for like a weekend hike, but it's a lot of like people trying to sell you gimmicky stuff. Like, oh, you're going to need this fire starter / whistle / paracord / whatever.
And what physical prep did you do?
I walked, trying to remember the name of the trail. It's a fire tower in Boone, or in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. And it was a 2.5 mile trail, but, and going to the fire tower, it's all uphill, so I thought that would be, good prep. But it was a smooth rock path. It graveled all the way up to the fire tower, and the grade on it was like this the whole way. So I mean, it's barely any steepness to it. And it was 2.5 miles there, 2.5 miles back. So it was like a 5 mile round trip. And I did that twice a week on my days off.
Awesome. So when you started out, did you believe you would make it the whole way, or did you have it in your heart, like, I can do this? Or
I wanted to be realistic when I set my goal. So I was like, I think it's realistic to shoot for Damascus, Virginia, because that was the closest point to my home. And when I got to Damascus, what really changed my mind, of course I had my tramily motivating me, telling me, we need to go all the way, like it'd be, and I wanted to, but I was like, I don't know, because I didn't really have the financial or really a plan past Damascus. But when I got to trail days, I met the preacher on Thursday there at the One Way Ministries, and met him on Thursday, and then Saturday he comes up to me randomly and he pulls me aside and he's like, the Lord laid it on my heart to tell you that one, he's not mad at you, and two, you got to keep going. And when he said that, it was out of the blue and random, and it was relevant to what I'd been thinking about that week. So I was like, I gotta go, I gotta keep going. I'm on the right path. And it felt like I was on the right path. For the first time probably ever in my life, I felt like I was where I was supposed to be.
what things surprised you along the trail?
The community, just how wonderful 99.9% of the people that I met were. It's incredible to see how the generosity and the kindness and just like this natural connection you can make with people on the trail. It's not just like out here in the real world, a random person doesn't ask you like, hey, you good? You need water, you need, food, or how you doing? Is everything okay? Random people like in the airport, no, they don't. And, or, I mean, even if it's not like checking up on you, just striking up a casual conversation like, hey, what's up? What are you doing today? And it's like a lot of socialization. I kind of come out anticipating isolation. And I thought that's what I needed, but ultimately this connection with this fantastic community that's so supportive and just, I don't know, cheering everyone cheers everyone on, no matter where you come from, what you do, what kind of background you got. The thing is I wanted to see everybody make it to Katahdin, and they wanted to see me make it to Katahdin. And it's like this support group, and we wake up every day, and we know the person waking up to us next to us in the shelter, they got to climb that same crappy mountain that we do today. And it's like this bond, it's just like an unspoken thing.
What do you wish you'd known about the trail before you came out?
That's a good question. I wish I'd have known there wasn't as much to worry about. Coming out, I was very nervous, scared. I cried myself to sleep the first night in my tent because I was completely out of my element. But if I could have just come into it with more of a level-headedness, knowing that okay, this is meant to be fun. People are out here to have fun and talk and communicate instead of going into it. It's okay, I might die out here. It wasn't like hardcore. It was a very pleasant experience. It was life-changing.
I can imagine that first night for you, crying yourself to sleep. It's got to be a pretty low point, but it was at the start of the trail. Were there any other low points that you had?
Yeah, there was one point we were camped at a lake. I can't remember where it was. I want to say Massachusetts. It was definitely up north. I woke up one morning and man, I felt exhausted. We had a couple, maybe 3 or 4 days where it was in the 90s. We had some good climbs all those days, and that last day I woke up in my tent sweating, fatigued, my legs hurt, and I didn't have any money, and I was just man, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's mentally, it's getting to me, and the trail provides. And it is the next, after I said that, I hiked to the Upper Goose Pond cabin, and it was amazing. That canoeing, the best swimming hole I've seen. They made blueberry pancakes the next day, and it's all these things. It's just the trails. I know this sucks, but you're gonna get through it. And then I had an amazing support system, tramily. They're always encouraging me. And that day I needed my space, and my tramily, they're fantastic. They gave me my space, and they didn't hold that against me. They know you just need some time to think, and I really appreciated that, and it helped because it was just got through that bad day. I've had a couple other bad days, but that was probably the worst other than the first night.
So, right after having a really bad experience, you had a really good experience, and that's an amazing memory. What other amazing memories you got? What are your favorite points from this trail?
When someone asks me my favorite memories, so many memories come flooding in, and it's hard to pinpoint down one specific thing. I can tell you I'm very thankful for the first night, because with 100%, without a doubt, I would not be sitting here if it were not for the friends that I made. And that could be said for a lot of different reasons, but they're the greatest support I've ever had. Motivation, every day, you got this, we're going to do this, this is the plan. And when things get scary, summiting Mount Katahdin with 35, 40 mile per hour winds, everything's frostbit, frost over everything. My beard was frozen. I wanted to turn back, but my friends were there with me, and mentally that is priceless, irreplaceable, the biggest motivator. And so I'd have to say the moment that I'm most thankful for is the moment that I met my friends, because without them I wouldn't be here.
That's really cool, man. I'm so glad we got to meet you. I'm so glad I got to meet all the people that I did, and I'm glad that I've met you on the first night, and we've been hiking together ever since. I say that you say that friends got you through the toughest times, and I wanted to know why you thought, or you believed, that you stayed on trail despite the fact that you've gone through tough times, whereas some other people might have gone home because they were homesick, or they just weren't feeling it anymore, or they felt the pressure. And you've been through all of those things, homesick, felt the pressure, and what made you stay on trail despite all of those setbacks?
A couple things. One, I originally thought I was doing it to prove other people wrong that told me that I couldn't do it, or maybe they didn't explicitly say it, but you can tell when someone thinks something. And I thought, I'm going to prove these people wrong, but I needed to prove to myself that I don't have follow-through issues, that I can, if I am determined to do something, that I can do it. So that was a big thing, like proving some people wrong that said that I have follow-through issues. And but that's just like a small reason. My life out here on trail is so much better, in my opinion, so much better than my real life back home. Out here on trail, like I was saying, I have so many friends. Every day we're somewhere new, talking to new people or reunited with people that I met prior. And the physical activity and where that puts me mentally, just having such a simple agenda, waking up every morning, it's like, okay, just got to get my stuff packed up, get on the road, and as long as you're walking, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And at the end of the day, I always had to look forward to, like setting up my tent and then getting out my food bag and making dinner with my friends, and we sit around, talk and laugh, or do rosebud thorn, and it's just, I felt like mentally I am in a much healthier state. And yeah.
So you said when you originally came out that you were going to hike solo, or you thought you were, and then on the very first night we all meet each other. Obviously you haven't had to hike solo this whole trip, but there has been a couple of days where you've been alone on trail and you've been hiking ahead or behind us. So what would you say are the biggest differences between hiking as part of a tramily and then hiking solo?
So like throughout the day, if I'm hiking by myself, but you guys are either ahead or behind, it's kind of like the same, like I had that to look forward to at the end of the day, to see you guys talk and just have a connection with something. It's almost like bringing me back down, like when you're out there in the woods walking 20 miles, it's kind of like sometimes you might get a little out there because you've been alone with your thoughts all day, and it's like a reality check to get back into camp around other people. And it was like it's reassuring. But the times that we got split up and I knew you guys weren't going to be at camp, it was harder to stay like level-headed. It's like, well, I'm going to push the big miles, and then it's like I want to keep going, and I didn't really have a plan. Didn't really want to stop, because then I'm just sitting there alone, bored. So it was just like seemed more like work than like a growing experience without my family and my friends. And I see people that I knew, had talked to a couple of times and stuff, but it's just different when you have a bond with people and get close to people. It makes it more fulfilling, I think is a good way to put it.
So after walking through 14 states and 172 days on trail, 2,200 miles, what did it feel like to get up there and touch that finishing point, that Katahdin sign?
My hands were numb, so I didn't feel what the sign felt like, but I don't know, it's like it was a weight lifted off my shoulders, because it's one of those things, everybody's got their own journey, there's no judgment in the statement, but for me, touching that sign was the only way I was going to get that off my back. There's a point, like I was saying, at that lake when I wanted to go home, and then right before Moosalok I wanted to go home, I felt like if I would have given into that and went home then, I would still have that what if, or where's Lookout and Holy Roller, what are they doing today? And I don't think I would have ever felt satisfaction. But touching that sign and knowing that I stuck with it and it's over now, that was the only way to like close this chapter of my life, because if I wouldn't have touched that sign, I would always be thinking about what if, and it just felt really satisfying, like a big weight had taken off my shoulders, because I'd finally proved, less importantly to other people, most importantly to myself, that I can do something when I want to, when I set out to do it. It did get hard, there's times I wanted to quit, but I didn't do it alone, and the support, the support of my tramily is the only reason I'm here. Because it's hard days out there, 172 days, it's hard to stay focused on one goal for that long.
Well, congratulations, man, you nailed it. It's incredible. How do you feel that you finally touching that sign and following through on the biggest challenge of your life, how do you feel that's going to have an effect on your outlook or your perspective on life in the future? I know it's hard to say now because it only happened 24 hours ago, but do you have anything in mind that you think, I think this is going to change the way I think?
Yeah, I really believe that whenever I have those days where I wake up and I'm like, man, I really don't want to go to work today, I want to be able to look back on the days that I woke up and was like, man, I really don't want to hike 20 miles today, but I did it anyway. Or, man, I don't want to get out in the rain, but got to, because that's what we do. And I think I'm going to be, I don't know how to phrase it, but I'm just going to tackle the things that I have to tackle instead of, procrastinating them. And, I think it puts things in perspective, because walking 2,200 miles at first seemed impossible. I did it, and now maybe I can aim higher for other goals in my life. And, they may seem impossible, but I can look back on the time I walked 2,200 miles and think, well, I can at least give it a shot.
Outside of your sort of perspective on life, what doors do you think are going to open now that you're a successful AT thru-hiker? Slightly different from just your personal perspective, but do you think there's bigger opportunities?
I definitely have some ideas for the future that involve the Appalachian Trail. I would really like to start a program called the Helpful Hiker, and take some things that I've learned in my experience, things that I really appreciate that people thought of, and kind of implement them into this one big thing where I can help people on their journey. This journey has helped me socially. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences on this journey, and I think if, I want to give back, but I think if I could find a way to be helpful to other people on their journey, that hopefully I can help feed their help. How do I phrase this? I just want to help them on their journey so they can experience the things that I did, whether it be spiritual or whether it be social, being able to open up and make friends, lifelong friends. And I just want to help people get to the place where I'm at right now, because I feel like I'm mentally the healthiest I've ever been. I'm fit, but I'm very unhealthy physically because I eat ramen all the time.
And baby reds.
You gotta get them creamy, boiling hot. I mean boiling. With
the hindsight that you've got for looking back, what things would you change about your journey?
Looking back on how this trip went, I wouldn't change anything, because I really feel like us as a group, we had the perfect timing. We were always at the right place at the right time. And I don't think I would change anything. But maybe go swimming a couple more times. We did a fair amount of swimming, stopping in at swimming holes and stuff. Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't change anything. I think my experience was perfect. I'd be scared to say that, oh, I wish I'd have went swimming more, and because if I'd have took that extra half hour to swim, I wouldn't. Maybe we would have missed out on one of our really favorite memories. So I don't know how I'd change anything.
You came into this with very little funds, preparation, or support. What advice would you give to people who might want to do this or another challenge, something like this, but not be in the perfect position in life?
If there's plenty of resources, hiker boxes, and just being open and learning to live without control of the situation. That was very hard, but once I kind of got used to sometimes you have to go without. Sometimes, but if you can hang on, the trail always provides. And it always gave me what I needed. It gave me what I wanted sometimes, but it always provided me with what I needed. Like one time I lost my barrier line, and the very next day I found one, and I haven't found one since. So it's really cool, and it's magical how the trail works that way. Probably sound like a crazy person saying, oh, it's magic, but seriously, it'll blow your mind. It's nuts.
I think from everything that you've said, I already know the answer. But imagine it's March 26th again. Would you come and hike this trail again?
Yeah. I mean, if I could have this experience that I had, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even if I wasn't promised this experience, I would still try it. But in the future, I don't think I think I'm going to retire from thru-hiking. But I don't know, because I've been hearing people talk, like their shuttle driver out of Millinocket was saying, every year I hear people say, this is my last thru-hike, I'm never doing this again. And then 2 years later, they're trying the AT Sobo. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
Amazing, my friend. Well, I'm so happy to have met you, who have spent the last 6 months by your side, and thank you so much for sitting down with us and giving everyone your perspective on the trail.
Oh, thank you, brother.